Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be starting my presentation here, and just very happy to have been asked by Derek and Peter to take part in this presentation, and I think really love the idea that I can do a presentation and stay in my own living room. So if there's people who are joining on, I guess I'll see them here. I sent the link out, the live link, and if you want to join, that's great. So I'm going to go right to the slide deck that I prepared. I want to keep this obviously to just a half an hour, or actually less if possible. And if there's any questions, hopefully they'll come up either through the slide deck or I have the group chat window open. And so maybe people can ask questions that way. Whatever happens, this whole thing will be archived. Okay, so we'll go to the screen, and I'm going to try and flip around a lot. This is a lot of this is new technology for me, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, there's the slideshow. Now you can see at the top there's a link that you can use if you want to ask a question, and then I can check for your questions right here. Well, I don't know if you can see that screen, but that's what I can do. Okay, so the reason I chose this topic is based on kind of an experiment that we did at my last school. My headphones on. Experiment that we did at my last school, and what we were able to do over a 2.5-year period is arrange things so that every student from grades 3 through 6 had their own computer. The juniors, grade 4, 5, and 6, actually brought their computers home, and we basically had machines throughout the school. And I can talk a little bit about how we arrange that. It's not as difficult as it sounds, but a little bit about our school. This was a school, kind of lower socioeconomic area, and most of these students would not have been able to have or get their own machine. So really the only way to make sure that they had machines was for us to provide the machines. As, I know in other parts of the city we have bring your own device policies, but a policy like that would not work at our school. Our kids simply wouldn't be able to get machines. So in essence, when you're in a high poverty area, really the whole idea of bring your own device doesn't work. You need to have some form of a one-to-one program for your school. Anyhow, so these are just some thoughts that I put together today when I was getting ready for this. One thing that people will always want to know will be, okay, like, is there any evidence saying that this actually has a positive potential impact on student achievement? I'll show you my live binder collection of articles on one-to-one at some point near the end of this presentation, but I checked on one article today when I was getting ready for this. And this article was produced by the Stanford Center for Opportunity Policy in Education. And in the article, they talked about a group of researchers who did a review of the literature on one-to-one, and they came up with some conclusions. And in their study, they said that there were definitely some benefits to having a one-to-one program. From my point of view, I didn't need to see the study to do this. For me, there were obvious benefits from having this kind of a program. I saw these benefits daily when I went into the classroom. One of the most important advantages that I saw really was the empowerment it provided for the students, in the sense that they had in front of them a very powerful learning tool. It connected the home and the school very, very well. when it came to motivation, there was a huge increase in motivation because the kids were engaged all the time in the learning that was going on in the classroom. So much so that if a machine broke down, I would have a student in my office the same day saying, what am I going to do? Where am I going to get a machine? Because I need to get my homework done. Like, I need to get this assignment done. So it had some, like, from a qualitative point of view, it had some really, really interesting impacts, that at least that I noticed. And I think it's backed up by the study that's the work that's been done right now. There are some really important steps to this program, and I think when we were doing this, this was basically trial and error for sure. There wasn't a lot of information to go on. There were some articles from what was happening in the States, some successes and some failures. But over the 2 years, I learned some really important things. It's one part of the whole program is getting the machines, and when you get right down to it, getting the machinery into your building is the simple part. And I really do challenge administrators who say they can't do it. We were able to do it, and we had no financial resources. I think it's just a matter of will. And one of the pieces that I was reading, excuse me. One of the really important parts, one of the things that I read that was really important was that unless you have your principal on side, it's harder for these programs to work. And in my case, that was really, really important because I had to find really a way to make this work. As I said, first part of all this is the equipment. The second part has to do with the teachers and training. And what's really important is that you do have some kind of a plan. It's really great if you have a plan at the district level, but that's not always going to happen. In our case, we had a plan at the school level, and here you see a picture of some of the staff at our school. And what we did is we ran a variety of certification programs, so teachers became comfortable with digital content that I'll go over in a few minutes, so that they had something to do with the machines. Again, having the machines is just one thing. What are you going to do with those machines becomes really, really important. This is an action plan that I took from a school in the States, and the interesting thing about the action plan, this was a district level action plan. So when the district decided to go one-to-one, they invested a considerable amount of money to make sure that every child had a machine, and they started with particular grades. And you can see, if you take a look at the plan here, that as time went on, this mobile technology, I'm not exactly sure, well, actually they were using Chromebooks. They started with like grade 9 and then moved to intermediate and then to junior. And actually the plan is to go right to kindergarten, which is what was the plan for us as well. So it's really important when you're implementing these plans to make sure that everyone eventually gets involved. Not so much for the students, for sure, but also for the teachers, because they want to be part of the plan. And there are good, useful programs for students at every age. So you can see that while they've started with their Chromebooks at the grade 6 to 8 level, you can see that there's a rollout here over a period of time, so that everyone right down to kindergarten will have access to a machine. The article where I first found out about this particular board, there was a local newspaper article, and I wish they had put more information about how the students were reacting to having computers in the classroom. The first two comments here really, to me, are important, and this is the kind of stuff that I would hear at our school all the time. And really, when you're talking about expense, you can see in the second comment that when it came to math, the student said, well, I don't have to worry about my math textbook so much because everything is online. And there's some really, really good math websites and programs that students can use. And what it really does, it makes the classroom and the school classroom and the home basically seamless, because the work that is started in the classroom can be continued at night. And what was wonderful about our teachers is they were insistent upon the students bringing their computer home at night. They actually had to do that. And if they didn't, it was like forgetting your homework. So in some cases, if kids lived nearby, they actually were sent back to the home to get their machine because that was their primary learning tool for the entire day. So this became the way things went, especially with the juniors. And in many cases, we even supplied special bags for them to carry their computers home, and so that we knew they stayed safe. I've heard from time to time tech people saying, well, you know, that's not going to work very well because they're going to break them. And that didn't happen. That rarely happened, that we had a machine that was dropped or something like that. They took really, really good care of the machines. One of the studies, and there's one quote here that from one of the studies, and it's cited below from Education Week, that it actually changes the learning in the classroom from instructive to constructive. Because really what you're doing here, when you're giving the learning tools right directly to the student, you are really encouraging student voice. And the task may be set up initially by the teacher, but the work is being enhanced and carried out by the students who have the means to learn right at their fingertips. So what I would say, what it did at our school, it revolutionized the education that was going on in the classroom over a period of 2 years. Some of the important findings, and there's 2 slides on this. When it came to just the increased use of technology and expertise with technology, that we saw a huge increase there. We had a program in our school where we had a trainer who would come in and work with the kids on different programs, whether it's, you know, Google Maps or whatever. And what the trainer would say to me was that the expertise of the students was far higher than he found in other schools, because the students were used to using the machines on a daily basis. So that made a really big difference to the kids, and made a really big difference to their level of expertise. They just got really good at using these machines. It allowed definitely for more student-centered, individualized, and project-based learning. That definitely was something that I saw on the increase, because just the different types of programs, which I'll get into in a minute, that the kids were using naturally lent themselves to project-based learning. When it comes also to how students were using it through the writing process, this was really interesting as well. And I saw examples where students were working on group writing exercises where they were able to get a sense of where other people were in the writing process, because the work, not only were they able to work on their own machine and their own material, but they were also able to view the progress that other students were making through a program like Google Classroom that showed the progress of the entire class. So it was very much, yes, the kids were working on their own material, but they had a sense of how the entire group was working. So that was pretty cool. Student-teacher communication definitely gets a lot better when you're using, when everyone has a computer. One of the things, and I'll note it in a few minutes, is that you need to have some kind of information management system in place We use Hapera. Another program that most schools use, I think at this point, is Google Classrooms. And both of these programs, and there's other ones that school boards use, allow the teacher to communicate directly with the student. The teacher can push out assignments to the students. The teacher can differentiate the assignments so that some students are getting, that not all students are getting exactly the same assignment, which is terrific. We actually stopped using school agendas for the juniors, which meant another saving of money. There was no need for having student agendas because they all had Google calendars, because we're also a Google board, so every child had their own Google calendar. So all their work was put right on the calendar, and there was really no excuse for not knowing what was going on because they all had access to the calendar. They all knew how to use the computer. Certainly a higher level of engagement, motivation, and persistence in the classroom when the laptops are deployed. There seems to be, the model in where I used to work seemed to be 5 computers per class. And George Kouros, in one of his blogs, made a really important point. I think it was George Kouros who said, well, why would anyone do that? Like, if you were, when you have math textbooks, you'd make sure that every student would have a math textbook. It wouldn't make sense just to have 5 for the whole classroom. Or if you were working on a group project, or a group of adults working on a project, they would all have their own machines, and that's how they work. So why would we go with just 5 machines for a whole classroom? The argument's made that this increases collaboration skills, and I just think that doesn't make any sense. I think the advantages far outweigh the whole idea of cooperation when you're basically fighting for a machine in the classroom. And studies like this are really useful because it shows the real value in when it comes to student voice and engagement, when everyone has a machine and everyone is equal in the class. This last point is an interesting one because this is where I find the one-to-one programs really, really work out well. Again, our area was very low, like a low socioeconomic level in the area was very low. Students did not have access to these kind of resources. This was not somewhere where a parent could go out and buy a machine for a student. So to allow students to have the advantages that other kids have in areas that have more financial resources, they really needed to have a computer. So in essence, it really did overcome a lot of the inequalities that naturally exist in the particular area that I worked. So to me, that's one of the main reasons why you'd want to go with a program like this. Now, I've put a few articles together that I have links to on this presentation and in the kind of presentation card that we had to put up beforehand on how to implement a one-to-one program in your school. So I just flipped to one of the blog articles that I wrote for a British publication. This is a version of it. And this is all based on our own experiences. So in the article, you'll see there are a few ideas that are really important when it comes to implementation, what works and what doesn't work. And again, most of the points, when you take a look at this, have to do with people. It's not all about machines. What really needs to happen is you need to get teachers to buy in, and then you have to give teachers the time and the resources so that they can learn about the machines and learn about what they can do with the machines. And that's really essential. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. We tried webinars, but actually the webinars didn't work all that well. What they really preferred was having people to come in and talk about the different programs that they were going to be using. So when I looked to purchase digital programs, which was really, that was my big job, finding digital content for the teachers. I looked for programs that had excellent professional development opportunities and really good support. The best support being where people could come into the school and talk to teachers, or the organizations could provide me with the professional development material that I could train the teachers with. So that became really, really important. One other thing that's really important is people need to understand the importance of curated resources. And by that, I mean, for example, if you're looking up for something in the classroom, you want to find out some information on volcanoes, for instance, in a grade 3 science class. Yes, you can just go on Google and just flip in the word volcanoes, and you will get some information for sure. But what you're looking for, what you really want, are really good resources that have been vetted by educators and have been really developed. So we looked for programming that would really do that would go beyond just like the blind search, but provided really good resources that had been vetted and enhanced by educators. And I can show examples of that in a minute. And this is a slide that a lot of you have probably seen through, this is by George Kouros. What do you want kids to do with your technology? And what we want to do is get away from the instructive and to the constructive, as I mentioned earlier. So instead of just making things like making a Prezi, developing awareness, starting conversations, finding answers, really getting into inquiry. So doing things with the machine, creating content, not just being a passive viewer of the content. Here I have a few resources, and for me, again, this is where I did a lot of my learning, was trying to track down really good resources for the teachers. One of them is Discovery Education, and I got the link to the science tech book. This may not work for you depending on what school board you are in, because this is a curated material that you actually have to buy from Discovery. This is just an example of one page, the opening page for the grade 2 science tech book, TECH book. And the materials here are wonderful. The whole science tech book has been updated in the last year or so. So you can see how it's broken down, the different subject matters that are listed here. We'll just choose one, Earth materials, and you see it's broken down into 4 areas. So let's say we click on fossils and take a look at that. And what you'll see this is the same through all the Discovery Education material, all the science tech book material. It's broken down into engage, explore, explain, elaborate with STEM. So it tries to link the content to STEM and careers in science. The evaluate system has it's actually being redone right now to bump up the difficulty level when it comes to the assessment tools they're using there. So there's a lot of hands-on materials, a lot of good current video material. The dig with Discovery had been in the past, whether their video material was very old and I don't want to show that. I need current material. All the video material that is used by Discovery has to be very recent. It has to be within the last 5 to 10 years maximum. So older material is taken out of the tech book. And again, this is one of the advantages of a digital tech book, is that it can be revised all the time. And this is something that the people who work with Discovery, that's something that they are doing all the time. And it's a lot easier for them to do it because, again, it's all digital. So this is grade 2. They have science material that goes right up into high school. They have a math tech book that is also available. They also have a social studies tech book, which is not available in Canada. It's based on American material, but I'm hoping that at some point they will look to do a social studies Canadian version, because that would be pretty great. So that's a terrific tool. The other thing that's really great about Discovery Education is they have really good PD materials right embedded on their website. They also have something called the Ambassador Program that you can get, and it gives you materials to train your staff. So when it came to Discovery, the way we implemented it is that I learned about the Ambassador Program, and for some of the in-school PD we had, I actually trained the teachers on Discovery Education. And then later in the year, they were given some free time where they were able to investigate one or two of the programs that we had rolled out that year. A lot of teachers chose Discovery, but they knew enough at least to go to where the professional development materials were in Discovery. Another program that we continue to use was Mathletics. Again, we used Mathletics because it was a very engaging tool. You could use it at school and at home. Teachers could monitor the progress of how kids were doing with Mathletics. Teachers really liked the program, which I think is really important because there was really great teacher buy-in. And their support was wonderful. We had one person who was assigned to the school. She was out in Calgary, and Mathletics staff would actually come to the school and work with the teachers. We planned one day where every teacher was given a half-day PD if they wanted to learn more about Mathletics, and they worked with Mathletics staff. We noticed a huge upsurge in the use of Mathletics right after that because, again, they'd had a chance to connect with teachers. Another program that I think is important that I would have liked to have used more was a program called Atomic Learning. Again, these are all programs that you have to pay for, but again, you're investing in your kids and in your teachers. Atomic Learning is a phenomenal platform, comes out of the States, but offers workshops, demonstrations, webinars, seminars on virtually anything that you would need to know about anything having to do with computer programming. For example, just before the workshop today, I went on and took a look at Google Maps and to see what they had there. They had it broken down into about 15 different segments on Google Maps. And the nice thing, and this is where they get their name from, it's broken down almost like into little atoms. So each piece might be 2 or 3 minutes long. So when you are going and taking a look at Google Maps, and you want to find out things, you don't have to go through the whole demonstration, the whole lesson. You can pick the atoms, as it were, or the points of interest that you want, and simply ones. So again, it saves on teachers' time. This was another one of the programs where we gave teachers time in school to investigate it and to learn more about it. And again, this is really important. You can't just put this material out and expect your teachers to learn about all these programs. They're too busy. They don't have the time for it. If you want one-to-one to be successful in your school, you have to provide the in-school time. Finally, this is the student information system, management system that I talked about, Google Classroom. This is actually a particular class. It's a grade 7-8 language arts class. And you can see here the teacher is communicating to the students on an assignment that she is asking them to work on. And again, this can be pushed out to all the kids in the class, or it can be pushed out at a differentiated level. Great communication tool. You do need something like this, whether it's Capra, Google Classroom, or other programs. When you start getting into this, you need to have some way to manage and communicate with your students. So again, the digital content for me is really, really important. Just to finish up, I have some resources that I've put out here. Live Binders, which is a collection of articles that I put together, things that I've found on the web. I add to this on a regular basis. Separate articles that you can click on, and this is available to you. The links are all public and can be shared. And when you click on any of the links, you come up with the actual article, and the theme for each of the articles has something to do with the use of technology in the classroom. And actually just picked up George Kouros's article, and there's the poster that he adapted from another educator. So that's available to you. So there's about 20 or 30 articles that you can take a look at. The discovery education, again, the problem here would be if your board is not a discovery board, you will not be able to access this. This is the professional development learning platform for discovery education. This has been redone in the last year. So all this has been redone. So you can set this up. There are interactive modules, step-by-step guides to learn about how discovery works. It's a really important idea to go through some of this material as a teacher or as an administrator who's trying to bring this program into their school, because discovery is a very full program. There's a lot of stuff there. So it's not something you can just learn on the fly. You actually have to spend some time to figure out the different aspects of it. There's so much that is contained in Discovery. Discovery also has events. They actually held an event here in Ottawa in the fall where they came up and did workshops with a lot of teachers from the Faculty of Education. And they do something called the Denzi every year that you can apply for. And it's a really great conference where they highlight some of the new things that are going on with Discovery. You just have to get yourself there, and they pay for everything else. I've gone twice, and I highly recommend it for administrators. There's a principal's version and there's a teacher's version. So can't say enough about Discovery. I think it's an essential tool when you are rolling out digital content into your school. One thing I put here is a Padlet. I think this is it. Yeah, it's going to come up. And this is something you can add. I'll leave this open so that you can take a look at it. The Padlet, it was just simple question: what kind of digital content do you use on a regular basis at your school? And C-O-N-T-E-N-T. I just put something in about Discovery, and I added just a screenshot of the Professional Learning Center. So if you have things that you use, please feel free to put them up here. I'd love to find out more about what are the kind of digital resources that you find really helpful and useful when you're working with your kids and when you're trying to find engaging content that really gets them to be creators in the classroom rather than consumers. So if you want to, please feel free to add stuff there. Take out George's article. No questions, so I'll keep on going. And I think that's it. I think I'm done. Let's see. Yeah, resources was my last slide. So that's everything for today. I hope this is useful. This will be archived. Again, I want to thank Derek and Peter for giving me the opportunity to put together this presentation, and I hope that you found it useful. And please feel free to use the Padlet or ask me questions online on Twitter. My Twitter address is right here on the presenter card that we put together. It's at MCGUIRP. My email is there. My blog is listed. Well, here's some of these are all, these links are all from my blog. The LiveBinder link is here. There's another one on digital integration. There's not as much there. And then, of course, the Padlet link is there as well. So that's all up and live. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I hope this was useful. Thanks very much, and enjoy your Sunday.